This episode is supported by Trustonomy, an original podcast from OneTrust. Every good relationship you have, personal or business, it involves trust. But we all know that trust doesn't just happen, right? We've all lost trust in a friend or a brand or a product. Trustonomy is a new podcast that looks at true stories from the past to understand how trust works and what makes it stronger and how to rebuild it when it's broken. Now, you know I'm a sucker for a good podcast that weaves historical stories and relates it to what's happening today. So I thoroughly enjoyed this Trustonomy episode and recommend that you check that out as well. Search for Trustonomy in your podcast player. We'll also include a link in the show notes. Many thanks to the OneTrust team for their support.
Welcome to the Rocketship podcast. I'm Michael Saka.
And I'm Matt Goldman. Today we talked with Aman Mann, the co-founder and CEO of Procurify. What'd you think?
Yeah, this was really interesting. We talked about everything from having Mark Cuban as an investor and how they went about doing that, to raising money out of Canada, and also some customer acquisition, how they discovered their product in the early days. What did you learn?
Yeah, they also talked about perception and how important that is in the early days, both for presenting or painting the picture of what you want people to think of your company before you have customers or before you have product figured out, and also what that means internally for keeping your team motivated before you have that fit. So it was great to hear how they straddled that and balanced it in their first couple of years. Let's get into it.
All right, well, tell us about Procurify.
Sure. I mean, in the basic aspect of what the startup does, we support companies in managing their internal spending, so kind of a cost structure for their organization. And that varies all the way from just making a ping request to purchase something to actually expenses. And then we move further into the organization, which goes to like approval chains and budget controls, all the way to buyers and suppliers communicating with each other.
Was this something that you had experienced at a previous job or just kind of a pain point that you knew existed?
Yeah, so, I actually experienced it from, one step further back, which was more of the operational level. And what I found in organizations that I worked for was they were just a cluster mess internally and weren't paying attention to their processes. And, most companies, they're looking on a one-sided way, which is, we just need to close more deals or, grow our revenue, but they don't focus on the internal pillars, which tends to have a lot of leaks and cracks. And so one area that really interested me and focused was, how are you spending your money? It takes so much to earn it. What are you doing with it? And that became an area that we saw that was really utilized in the sense of the efficiency and effectiveness of the processes.
So how did you kind of attack getting into the market? How did you get those initial customers?
We faked it for a really long time. Like legitimately. There's one thing I learned in the startup world, which is like the key to any success for us here is like perception and reality. You have to maintain your perception, but you have to know where your reality is. And we really, for a long time, we kind of pretended like we knew what we were doing until we knew what we were doing. So early on, we gained our first customer by just like doing a presentation at some forum. We didn't have a product, but we said we could do this for you. And it was based around managing your spending and the operation side of that. And there was an aerospace company that said, you know what? You sound like you know what you're doing. So we said, oh shit, now we better figure out what we're doing. And so we were supposed to spend like 3 months with them and work on the project. And that ended up taking 9 months, living off our credit card, all of that stuff. And but it was an amazing experience to really get in depth and learn, because I literally would just go door to door after that with companies and just ask them. I'd pretend like I was a student and, would you buy this? Do you have this pain point? And time again, just everywhere we went, it was the same issue. There was nothing in the environment where they could afford a system, because they were all archaic and expensive, like ERP. And then there was nothing that had the focus of the end user. So that became one of our, really core focuses as we were growing, was not just a functionality based system for the mid-market, but really focusing on the end user, because adoption is the biggest issue within these organizations for change management, right?
Yeah, and I want to get into that, but I'm curious. You said you had an agreement for 3 months and it took 9 months.
Yeah.
What did that agreement look like? And like what went wrong, I guess?
Sure. Yeah. So, we were optimistic as hell, like thinking like, oh yeah, we'll just like make something and they'll take it. And you realize when you're working with an organization hand on hand, their perception and understanding of the scope changes daily for what their needs are, because they're just discovering it at the same time when they have no process. And so we signed a TOR, which is a terms of reference, and that outlined our scope, and of course we threw in this like mumbo jumbo thing that said we own the product, and they're leasing it for a lifetime and so forth, and we gave them our terms of what we were going to achieve through developing something, and that's where, but like, as much as we would stick to the scope, they would every day continue to expand it, right? And it gave us from 3 months to 9 months of really understanding what we were getting into. And it gave us more time to really think about the market, the environment, the process, and just the overall understanding of the space.
And as you were building the product, were you trying to sell it to other people, or was this exclusively working with kind of your flagship company? Yeah,
exactly. So partly it was flagship, and at some point we just like said, we need to start looking out at how others are taking this. And so we didn't even have a finished product. I would just literally take PSD files, just screen caps, and you couldn't click any buttons or anything. And I would just go in pretending like I was still a student. I'm like, hey, I'm from this school. I just want to ask you some questions. And then when I got in front of the right person, I would try and sell them. Yeah, and then I would just start pitching to them and trying to see if I could get them at a customer at some point when we had a product, and kept them in contact. And then it was a great learning experience about the environment and just face to face with potential customers.
Do you still do face to face sales?
Actually, we locally we don't do too much, but so I would say like 98% of our customers are 99% of our customers are WebEx.
How did you guys kind of transition from this pilot company into the needs of making this a little bit more generic and the needs of many companies, or were the needs actually aligned from the beginning?
Actually, we dropped the solution we created for the aerospace industry, guys, and we actually went back to the drawing board and really rediscovered ourselves, because that was it. Like when we were developing it for them, we realized we were going backwards in the direction we were headed. And we really went back and looked at how we were designing it, the technology we were using, and what was going to be the technology going forward in a few years. And so we redesigned and really created Procurify at that point, and developed into what you call more generic, holistic view of what purchasing is today.
Cool. So what was the next step for you guys in your growth? Where did you find those initial customers after the aerospace industry?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. We were with like one customer for almost a year because our product did not meet the market's needs. So we kind of had to live in that perception world for quite some time, and just sell it to the world and to our to bring team members on. Even you had to like really sell it, because we knew where this market was going. We knew the opportunity we had, but the product took time to develop into. Not till really beginning of last year did we get into the true market opportunity, because that's when our product achieved a level of maturity where we could go after clients in a level that gave us a revenue growth opportunity.
This episode is brought to you by Miro. Whether it's agile planning, scrum events, or technical diagramming, Miro is built for engineering workflows like yours. Enable your team to plan, align, and execute on your infrastructure initiatives all in one single place. That means you can plan your infrastructure efforts with intuitive project management and agile-focused features directly on a Miro board. Miro also has a ton of integrations like with Jira and Azure and Rally, so you can import tasks as native cards so you can see the big picture. Plus, Miro's estimation app gives you clear understanding of work scope and lets you identify gaps in analysis or understanding and set clear expectations for delivery, which is priceless. So, your first 3 Miro boards are free forever when you sign up. So go to Miro.com/podcast. That's Miro.com/podcast.
When did you know that you were at that point?
Ooh, that's a great question. So, I mean, we knew some of, after talking to multiple companies, like in 2013, we had brought on multiple companies, but a lot of them had dropped off. We could not support them through onboarding process through the feature requirements. And we knew that we kind of really started to get a grasp of the things we needed required. And then really around the end of 2013 is when we started to feel the market again, and we saw there was attention that we were getting, and there was that the need was growing faster than before. And so that's when we really pushed out into the market on an online basis. And we have a great marketing team. They focused on content marketing, focused on really creating the awareness online.
So when you're going through that period where you're saying perception's so key, and you can keep up this appearance to people on the outside, how do you maintain it on the inside when you haven't figured out product quite yet? How do you keep the team motivated and going in the right direction?
It's like a house of cards. I'll be honest with you. It's like I was like, if you don't mind my language, shitting my pants half the time. Like, oh God, oh God, oh God. Like we need to keep this, this structure going. And you really have to be motivated and honestly willing to take that risk at the same time, because you know where you can go. But it was really about small wins and momentum. It didn't necessarily have to be around the customers. It could be around launching a new feature, getting our buzz out, which is why the perception is great, because whatever's going on in the inside world, when you feel the buzz from the outside world, it gives you motivation to keep going. And so we would find ways to get ourselves into contests or into pitches and into newsletters and websites, and just continue to talk about what we're doing. And that kind of helped the buzz go. And we would and our culture is really awesome. Like I know everyone's got great culture, but for us it's about creating an environment where you really get to unlock your potential. So everyone got a chance to be a part of different environments. We're a very happy-go-lucky kind of environment to really have a lot of freedom. So the couple the culture that we were creating and with the buzz we were creating outside in the world gave us that momentum to keep going until we were able to achieve the result we wanted.
So when if you were going through this again, would you take the same approach building for one company, or do you feel like it would have been better to just start with taking a step back and trying to look at what the industry needed?
You know what? I got to be honest. I really respect what we went through, because it gave. When I look out at what companies are doing, sometimes I find they don't really get. You can look at the market, but if you're not talking to the customers, you really get. It's really hard to build something meaningful for those users to understand their pain, because you can understand on a macro level like what the pains are going on. But to really get in there and understand an individual's pain, that was really powerful for us.
So what's been your biggest growth channel? Once you guys figured out the product market fit, people were interested, they're buying.
Yes.
What was the biggest channel that kind of created the funnel for you guys?
It was honestly online content marketing.
And so what did that look like? So, you're blogging, right? But was there a flow so that you get them to the site? How did you capture them?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was always, that part was always tweaking on making sure that when they would come to the site, it had the proper value proposition. We really believe in not just the problem we solve, but why we're solving it. I love Simon Sinek, who has one of my favorite all-time books, which is Start With Why, and I'm sure it's quite popular online. But really giving the message of why we're doing what we're doing, not what we're doing. And that really started to become really awesome online, and our voice was really getting strong in that direction. And then, of course, customer success. Man, as soon as that customer came on, we implemented some systems internally to be able to capture as soon as the customer comes on, we can communicate with them. We use a system called Intercom. They're freaking awesome. And we were able to immediately react to any questions or concerns a customer had as soon as they signed up. It wasn't via email; it was instant chat, and that honestly was so successful for us.
Who are you selling to inside of a company?
Typically, any management or C-level position. Operations, finance. Those are typically the type of positions we're looking at.
So what kind of content were you creating that grabbed their attention?
Honestly, it was super basic. It was just starting with, what is it? What is a PO? What is indirect spending? What is direct spending? Because, a lot of these people are very passionate and they come into the space and they want to make an improvement, but sometimes getting down, you have to get down to the basics to build up, right? And so we were providing very simplistic content that would just give the true meaning of what it was. And they would just absorb that, and then they would jump into signing up.
And how did the team look around that?
Like our team?
Yeah, the content team that scaled that.
It was like 2 people.
So are there any tips on, with not a lot of people, creating a system that pumps out a lot of good content while also getting the most out of each piece?
Yeah, honestly, it's trial and error. You really got to try. You got to, whatever you can throw out, you really got to, you really got to focus and understand your market, but at the same time, you've got to put something out there, learn from it, and then iterate on it again.
And how do you track that? How do you know, how do you know what success is for a piece of content?
Sure. I mean, you go through page views, Google Analytics. You're marking down the number of views you're getting, any responses that you're providing. So there's great tools, and they're free to be able to measure a lot of that stuff.
What's kind of next for you guys? What's the next step in growth for you?
That's a great question. That's the $1 billion question.
Of course, yeah.
It's very interesting because at the same time, there's a few different layers to it. It's about continuing to focus on what our culture is here and making sure that the environment we're creating doesn't change as we try to push for growth, because it is who we are. The other side is not forgetting our customers and the value we're trying to provide to them. And another layer is, we're taking on Goliath, in every direction we look. And for us to make sure we're putting together the right innovative steps and products that can tackle them at lightning speed, and that takes into account our customers, takes into account our culture, and that provides us the opportunity to push out a product and products that can tackle the market in that way. We really want to be the thought leaders and build things that people have never done before.
What advantage does being in Canada lend you?
That's a great question. Rain.
I guess long work days then.
Yeah, exactly, right. I guess diversity is really cool here. The government has a lot of credits they support you with. There's actually a lot of difficulty being out here. Experience, talent, fundraising. A lot of those are the very essence of a startup, and it's very difficult to acquire that here.
Why do you think so?
The maturity of this startup ecosystem is still very new, it's very tough. I would say Canada is a great country, but it's very risk adverse. So it's very hard to get those investors to understand, because in the Valley it's beautiful. They want you to take that risk. If you're not taking a big enough risk, if you're not excited enough, if you're not looking to take down Goliath, they're not interested. And here it's like, it's what's your bottom dollar, what's your revenue, and that doesn't paint the big picture. Not saying that we aren't learning and growing. I mean, you got Hootsuite, Spotify, you've got Plenty of Fish that just sold, So we are, it will come, but it's just going to take a lot longer.
Do you think it's just a different mindset, one based on revenue rather than projection, that raising outside it's more of it's a different pitch that you need to make?
Agreed. Yeah, 100%.
And I mean, maybe the valuations aren't there because, you're in Silicon Valley, you're always shooting for the moon. Exactly. But isn't there something to building a business that people maybe outside of the Valley are looking for, which are those basic business principles of revenue and growth inside of the business rather than inside of like users or acquisition, something like that?
True. So, there is, a silver lining to the hard knock here. And that is that we are building a business and it's scalable. And if successful, can be really lucrative and valuable to building something, big. And that is, a revenue understanding the customer. For us to gain a customer with revenue, it takes a lot more work because every dollar we spend, we know how valuable that is.
Right. So did you guys ended up raising, right?
We did.
And who did you raise from? If not in specifics, but was it San Francisco? Was it Canada? Was it New York?
Yeah, so pretty much majority of all our money is from the US. And and then actually we just brought on a new investor, he's phenomenal, Christoph Jans, who runs Point Nine Capital, in Germany. And he invested in Zendesk. He had his own few businesses and sold them. And these guys, they get it. It's so amazing to have VCs that get what it takes to be a startup and build that. And then Nexus Venture Partners as well. But what really catapulted us was, lucky enough, was early on, we wrote on the wall, who were the advisors we would dream of having. And Mark Cuban, we consider him a hustler. He built himself from nothing. And there's always hearsay about, how he's done it. But like he was very motivational for us. And, we had him on the wall and we had his email from a book. And that's when one of our team members cold emailed him, Amr, and he responded and we just started screaming like little schoolgirls. Like, really? And then, but he's just so hardcore. He was just like, what's your numbers? Like, what do you like, we just want you. And he's like, what's your numbers? And so it's kind of crazy going back and forth. But I'll tell you, that guy, I don't think he ever sleeps. You can email him at 2 a.m., 12 p.m., 3 a.m. It doesn't matter. He will respond in like 5 minutes flat. It's crazy.
Were you looking for him to invest or
actually,
to advise?
Yeah, we were just looking for him to advise. We just wanted, the dream to have your dream advisor, a part of the company, would be amazing. And he actually asked us what we wanted, and we threw him a number, and he's like, I'll watch you for 3 to 6 months. It was a lowball number. We didn't ask for him. We asked for literally nothing from him. Okay. And then he said, I'll watch you for 3 to 6 months. And 3 weeks later, we're like, screw it. He needs to know what we're doing. And so we emailed him again, and he's like, oh, you guys are annoying me. But no, he actually ended up forwarding us to his team and said, "Fine, I'll take a look." And then we worked with his team, and they made a significantly better offer than we had initially asked for, and they came on board, and that kind of catapulted us and gave us that momentum and perception as well.
So Mark Cuban is an investor.
He is an investor.
That's really cool. That's a great story.
Awesome. Yeah, it was pretty exciting for us to have that. We used him in every way we could. As soon as he came on board, our website became his face. Our old website was a banner of Mark Cuban.
No way.
Yeah, sitting there in a Shark Tank chair, and he's like, and it just had a quote saying, "I like this team." And that's the type of selling we were doing, man. It was hilarious. Yeah.
So did that actually work? What was it like going from being kind of nobody in Canada, if you will, to being endorsed by someone like Mark Cuban?
Yeah, it was huge. It got us out of the gutter, to be honest with you. You know, we weren't just, another startup trying to trickle our way through. It was like, hey, whoa, what are these guys doing? And it gave us that perception, while we had really nothing, that we had something. So yeah, it was great. And it's awesome because as we were building the value for our customers, they would see that Mark Cuban was part of it. And he's like, man, I love that show. I watch it every Saturday. And they'd be like, what do you guys do? We want to try your product. And we're like, okay, great.
Interesting. Yeah.
Awesome.
Wow. They didn't even know what you did.
No, it was wonderful experience to have. The more he was yelling at referees, the more attention we got.
That's awesome. So what does raising look like for you guys? Are you guys on the ABC train, or are you guys going for profitability? What's kind of the long-term plan there?
I think the biggest thing for us, profitability we realize will come, but the biggest thing for us is making sure we focus on our core values. And, one of our biggest mission statements is unlocking the potential of every individual. And that means a lot for us internally and externally. And so we really focus more on the value we want to provide to the customers at this stage. Of course, we don't forget the revenue portion, but we are on the fundraising train, because we know that if we can continue to speed up the creation of value, it will provide the long-term lasting ability to create a profitable company.
Yeah, and that's great to hear from a company outside outside the valley that's still taking that approach. Yeah.
Yes.
Very cool. Well, how do we keep up with you and Procurify online?
In every aspect, I hope we're in your face everywhere you can find us. So, it's, we're on Twitter, Facebook, Procurify.com. We have a hashtag that on Tumblr, we are Procurify. So if you want to see some of the quirky, kind of messed up things we pull in our office, we've got some interesting photos.
Okay.
Hopefully that are incriminating.
All right, cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you very much, guys. It's been a pleasure. You guys are awesome.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Rocketship podcast. If you enjoyed it, we have tons of other awesome episodes on our website. Check them out, rocketship.fm.
We have discounts on products that we use every day, like Woo Themes, Wistia, Treehouse. Go to rocketship.fm/essentials and get your discounts today.
Dr. Ray Wingrant, wildlife ecologist and host of the award-winning podcast Going Wild, produced by Nature on PBS. In the brand new season of Going Wild, we're tackling the big question, how can humans look at our relationship to nature differently? And with the help of special guests like Christian Cooper, host of Nat Geo's Extraordinary Birder, and Ayanna Elizabeth Johnson, co-creator of the How to Save a Planet podcast. Follow Going Wild with Dr. Ray Wingrant on your favorite podcast app.
Are you looking for a podcast that'll make you laugh?
You came to the wrong place.
That's not us.
That's not us.
Well, it is. We are a husband and wife who chat about raw, real relationship topics.
Like sex.
Like money.
Like marriage and kids.
But we're not afraid to talk about how your newborn baby probably isn't as cute as you think it is.
If you're in need of entertainment while you're driving to work, because that sucks, we can join you in the suckage, kind of like being in your ear.
Not physically.
So if you want to laugh,
Come check us out.
Come check us out. Brought to you by the Laughing Couple Podcast.